My girl and I were flying into her hometown after being out traveling around the country for Thanksgiving. It was a few days earlier than scheduled, so we didn't tell any of her family, or mine, who also flew in, because we had been spending Thanksgiving together for the last few years. We honestly didn't utter a word. This was back in 1992, so there were no cell phones, no tracking abilities, none of that. Anyway, we got into town late at night. 11 p.m., maybe midnight. We had decided we were going to stay in a hotel since the plan was to surprise the family, and while showing up on their doorstep late at night would have certainly surprised them, that wasn't really the kind we were going for. We get into our room. It's got a kitchenette, a couch, a TV, a king bed. All around, probably one of the nicer places we'd stayed in. I pass out immediately. She takes a shower. From what she's told me, she lays in bed, unable to sleep, until about 2 a.m. For context, we were in an extended stay hotel. There was a door that led right out into the parking lot, a sliding glass door to the left of the bed. Straight ahead, the couch, the front door, a desk, and a smaller window. Blinds were shut on the sliding glass door, but on the smaller window, I guess they were open a crack. She realized, but she was so tired she didn't care all that much. The room was completely dark, so it wasn't really like anybody could see in anyway. That's the mentality, at least. As she turns over to go to sleep at 2 a.m., through the slightly open blinds at the smaller window, she sees a flash. Like a camera flash. But because the parking lot is 50 steps away, she just simply assumes it's a street light. Doesn't think anything of it, and falls asleep. 5 a.m. I'm woken up to loud knocking on the sliding glass door. She wakes up only a few seconds after I do, just as confused, just as disoriented. Continuous, persistent, knocking. I had half a mind to just assume it was some drunkard. It was the holidays, after all, who came back from a night out and made a wrong turn, thought he was where he was supposed to be. The knocking stops briefly, then starts on the front door. I want to emphasize how this knocking was. Not quite a police knock, but someone was absolutely sure they wanted into this room, and they weren't going to stop until they got in. I go over to the front door to look through the peephole. I don't see anybody. The knocking starts again, back on the sliding glass door. If it was someone trying to wake up whoever they were with because they got locked out of their room, wouldn't they be announcing themselves? Wouldn't they be calling out the name of the person they were trying to wake up? Like I said, it wasn't a police knock. They would have made sure everyone in that hallway knew they were there if it was. I go back to the sliding glass door and just stand there. The knocking persists. Once it stops, I peel the curtain back, just enough that I can see out of the window. I'm pretty blind without my contacts, didn't have my glasses on, so I'm practically pressing my face up to the glass. And I see nobody. The second I shut the blinds, the knocking starts again. At this point, I'm freaked out. I was trying to keep my composure so I didn't make my girl more unsettled, but we were both already past that point. Nobody knows we're here. Nobody that would want to pull a prank on us. None of our family, none of our friends, nobody. The only person who knew we were even in this building was the older man who checked us in. And why the hell would he care? I'm borderline worried for our safety. If whoever was out there managed to get in and had cruel intentions, I'm a small guy. I'm 5 feet 8 inches, 125 pounds soaking wet. I can talk a lot of crap and I can throw a punch, but if somebody bigger than me really wants to kick my ass, they'll do it. No problem. I call up to the front desk. The knocking is still happening as I'm dialing. On the second ring, the same man who checked us in answers. He sounds concerned about why I'm calling at this hour. I explain the situation, and he tells me he's going to send the security guard over to check it out. The knocking continues for about another minute. Then it stops. Not even 2 or 3 minutes later, I get a call back from the front desk. Security didn't see anybody, didn't see any signs of anybody, but he apologizes for whatever happened. Super comforting. Neither one of us fell back asleep until it was light out. When we went out later in the day, there was a singular footprint, leading away from the sliding glass door. Just one. Weird, because we were in a nice part of town. It was a place she grew up in. She knew the area as well as anybody could. That's one of the reasons we chose to stay there. It was horrible. We are both still stumped as to what happened. I don't know. I still get uncomfortable just thinking about it, really. I always parked in the same spot at my last job, for 12 years. It wasn't company parking, so technically anyone could use it, but we were told to park in the back so customers could take the closer spots. Still, that spot was mine. So one day, I show up for my 4 a.m. shift, and my spot is taken by a dark tinted Cadillac. I'm immediately annoyed. Everyone knew that was my spot, and at that hour, it wasn't one of my coworkers. So I'm wondering, new employee? Or someone from another shop nearby? But the car stayed, through my lunch break, when I left work, and the next day. Even when I came in for a completely different shift, it was still there. Something about it felt wrong. Not just strange, wrong. And there was a smell. It's summer in the South. Heat like that cooks anything inside a car. But still, something about it didn't sit right with me. My dad was a Marine, then a police officer, and he always said, if something feels wrong, it probably is. So I called the non-emergency police line. Honestly, I felt stupid, like I was wasting their time. But every time I walked past that car, it bothered me. So I waited, for over an hour. Partly because I had the next day off, and partly because I can be a little petty. That was my spot. When the police finally showed up, they seemed annoyed, probably used to getting calls like this. But then they ran the license plate, and everything changed. Suddenly they were asking questions, my information, who owned the lot, if there were cameras, if I had touched the car. The car was linked to an Amber Alert, a missing person, a 15-year-old girl. And when they opened the trunk, they found her, under a blanket, mutilated. And that smell, that was her. She had gone out with her boyfriend, much older, controlling. She had decided to leave him, and made one mistake, getting into the car with him. He drove her across counties, tortured her, stuffed her in the trunk, and left her there, to die. I never found out when she died, and sometimes that thought stays with me. What if I had said something sooner? What if I hadn't waited? So yeah, listen to your gut, even if it feels small, even if it feels petty, because sometimes it isn't. Not quite as scary as other comments, but this happened to me a while back. A few years ago, I came home and found the front door of my house slightly open. At the time, my housemate had a terrible habit of not locking the door, so I just assumed it was that again, and honestly, I was more annoyed than anything. For context, the house was really small. The front door opened straight into the living room. To the right was the kitchen, just a small space, and directly across from the front door were French doors that led into the back garden. Upstairs, there were only 2 rooms and a bathroom, so I walked inside, and nothing looked out of place. My housemate's MacBook was still on the couch. Car keys were on the window ledge. There was even cash and an ATM card sitting on the table, so I didn't think much of it. Still, because the door had been open for who knows how long, I decided to go upstairs and check the rooms, just in case the neighbor's cat had come in. While I was upstairs, I heard it. Someone running across the living room, and then the French doors being thrown open. Stupidly, I ran downstairs, still not thinking anything was actually wrong. But when I got down there, I saw a man in the garden, jumping over the back fence. I locked the doors, calmed myself down, and honestly, I laughed it off. It felt like I had just barely avoided interrupting a break-in. Then I went into the kitchen to make some tea, and that's when I noticed it. Every cupboard, Every drawer was open. He had gone through everything, and all the knives were gone. Every single one, even the full knife set and the wooden block. And then it hit me. That guy, the one who had just run out of my house, had been in the kitchen the entire time I was downstairs. The kitchen was only about 10 feet from the front door. There was no way out without running right past me. He was that close, and if I hadn't gone upstairs, I probably would have walked straight into him, in that tiny kitchen, face to face, with someone holding every sharp knife in the house. I worked as a house cleaner in Minneapolis for most of 2019. One of my clients was a mom with 2 kids. They lived in an old house that they kept pretty tidy, but I always got a sad, run-down feeling when I did my cleans. It was an old, creaky place, the kind of house that felt like it had seen too many lives come and go. And everything inside looked hastily put together, mismatched, secondhand, like it was never meant to last. The mom was very mild-mannered and soft-spoken. She had a quiet confidence about her, the kind that makes you trust someone instantly. Most of the time she stayed in her room on work calls, and I'd clean the house alone. Her boys had Pokemon bed sheets, books scattered everywhere. They seemed like normal kids, goofy, energetic, happy. One day I was cleaning the living room. There was a desk covered in papers, so I started stacking them to wipe underneath. At the top were legal documents from her lawyer. I didn't read much. I didn't need to. She had recently separated from her husband. I left that job later that year, moved on. Eventually, in 2020, I left Minneapolis completely. And then, in December, I got an email. It was from a massage therapist I used to see. I had forgotten I was even on her mailing list. She said she was taking time off work because someone close to her had been murdered. There was a link in the email, a database listing victims of gun violence. Out of curiosity, I clicked it. I started scrolling, name after name, story after story. And then I saw her, the woman whose house I used to clean, and her 2 kids. I froze. I searched her name immediately, and that's when I found out what happened. Her ex-husband had come to the house, just like he always did, to pick up the boys. But this time, he brought a gun. The kids ran out to meet him, excited, happy. And then they realized something was wrong. They tried to run, but he shot them multiple times. In the front yard, in the middle of the day, in front of neighbors. Then he went inside and killed their mother. And after that, he killed himself. There was a note, apparently, but it was never released. I didn't really know them, not personally, but I knew their home, their space, their small, everyday life. And something about that never left me. It's a strange feeling to know a place so well and then learn that something so violent happened there. Since then, I've tried to understand it, tried to read about cases like this, tried to find some kind of explanation. But the truth is, I don't think there is one. I just hope, somewhere, they found peace.